Sure. Here is section 1 of the story, with a minimum of 500 words, written in a direct, emotionally driven narrative style, without repetition or unnecessary fluff. He wasn't supposed to matter to me. Not like that. He was just the man my mother married when I was 16. A tall, put-together type who knew how to fix things, say the right words, and somehow never raised his voice. I called him Dad out of habit, maybe pressure, but never with feeling. Back then, I just stayed out of his way. Years passed. I moved out, then back in when my relationship ended. My ex had drained me, emotionally, mentally. I was trying to piece myself back together when Dad returned from a 4-month contract overseas. I didn't expect to notice him like I did. Something had changed. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the way he looked at me now, with eyes that held a little too long. Or the way he said my name, lower, softer. He was warm, always respectful, but it was in the quiet gestures. The way he made my coffee exactly how I liked it. The way he knocked before entering any room I was in, even if the door was wide open. The way he remembered what I hated, what made me laugh, the exact name of the dog I lost 5 years ago. He paid attention in a way no man had, and I felt seen. Dangerous. How easily that gets confused with affection. Mom was working late shifts again. We'd pass each other in the hallway. He'd ask how my job hunt was going, and I'd give vague answers, but he listened like my words mattered. Once, he complimented the way I had organized the spice rack. I laughed, but later I caught myself smiling in the mirror like an idiot. It was nothing. It had to be. Then came the evening I walked into the kitchen wearing shorts I didn't think twice about.
He was making tea.
He looked up. Just a moment too long. His eyes dropped. He caught himself, turned away fast. But I'd seen it. We didn't speak of it. But something shifted. I couldn't tell if it was my loneliness or the way he stood so close without touching me that pulled me in. I told myself it was innocent, but that excuse started to wear thin. Especially when he leaned over me to grab a glass, and his breath hit my neck. Especially when his hand brushed mine, and neither of us moved away. He was always careful.
So was I.
But there was something in the silence between us that said more than words could. A slow burn. One that hummed under the surface every time we were alone.
It wasn't supposed to be this way.
He wasn't supposed to look at me like that. And I wasn't supposed to enjoy it. But when Dad came to me, then he didn't stop. And neither did I. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Sure, here is section 2 of the story, continuing directly from section 1. It's written tightly, with no repetition or filler, staying focused on emotional and psychological progression. The first time it crossed a line, it was late. I couldn't sleep. He was in the living room, reading something with a glass of wine. He offered me one without asking why I was up. I sat across from him, legs curled under me, pretending not to notice how his eyes followed the curve of my knees. We talked about nothing, but the way he looked at me wasn't nothing. I noticed his breathing shift when I laughed. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, listening like he needed to remember everything I said. It wasn't innocent anymore. We both knew it. I told myself he was being kind, that I was reading too much into it, but I kept showing up when he was alone. And he never sent me away. Another night, I cried. It started over a memory of my ex, but it ended with his arms around me, his hand on my back. I should have pulled away. Instead, I let myself sink into his warmth, and he didn't let go. His hand moved slowly. Too slowly. It rested too low for too long. I said nothing. He said nothing. We just stayed like that, breathing together, pretending it wasn't crossing every line. The next day, I wore something tighter. Not for him, I told myself. But I noticed how he noticed.
And I liked it.
He stopped calling me kiddo. That was the day I knew it was happening. Not all at once, but in a series of small, silent permissions. Long stares. Brushed fingers. Shared secrets. When Mom wasn't home, we talked more. He asked about my dreams, my regrets, things that no one else cared to hear. He said he admired my strength. I said I didn't feel strong. He said I was beautiful when I was honest. Once, I reached past him for a cup, and his hand settled on my waist.
Light. Steady.
I froze. He didn't move.
Neither did I.
The air went still. When he pulled away, it was slow, deliberate. My skin burned where he touched me. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it, about how natural it felt, how wrong, and how much I wanted it again. I started waiting for him to come home. I started making excuses to be around him. He never asked me to, but he didn't need to. Everything was said in what we didn't say. He'd linger in doorways. I'd pause just long enough for him to know I noticed. This wasn't a crush. It wasn't fatherly affection. It was something else, something sharp, magnetic, impossible to name without making it real. One night, he leaned in, close enough that I could smell the cedar on his collar. His lips hovered near my cheek. He hesitated. I didn't move. My breath caught. His hand touched my jaw. I didn't stop him, and he didn't stop either. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3. Here is Section 3 of the story, continuing directly from the previous parts, written with clarity, precision, and emotional depth, without repetition or filler. After that night, we stopped pretending. It wasn't planned. It just happened. He came into my room after Mom left for work, closed the door without a word, and looked at me like he already knew the answer.
I didn't ask why.
I didn't need to. I let him. Everything felt sharper after that. The way his hands held my face like he was afraid it might be the last time. The way he whispered my name, slower, more intimate. It wasn't just about need, it was about the secrecy, the danger, the thrill of being chosen. We became careful, not out of guilt, but necessity. Quiet footsteps, locked doors, short moments, stretched thin. We didn't talk about what we were doing. We just did it. Again and again. It should have felt wrong, but it felt like control, like power, like we had created something untouchable between us. I wore the necklace he once bought for Mom, and he never asked for it back. That felt like a message. He started coming home early when she wasn't there. I knew what that meant. I waited with hair done and lips glossed. I'd watch him walk in like I was the one he belonged to. For a few hours I was. But the cracks began to show. One night, she came home early. I was in the hallway. He was behind me. Too close. Her keys turned in the door, and we broke apart so fast it looked practiced. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't want to. After that, he changed. Less patient. More jealous. He asked where I went when I stayed out. Asked who I was texting. Said he was protecting me. But I could hear the edge in his voice. I liked it more than I should have. The secrecy started to wear on me. The guilt came in waves. I'd see my mother making dinner, laughing at something he said, and feel my stomach twist. But then he'd catch my eye across the table, and everything inside me would melt. He whispered once that he wished he met me first.
I didn't know how to answer that.
Maybe I didn't want to. Because if he had, I wouldn't have been off limits. And maybe that was part of why we kept going. I told myself it wasn't love. But the way he touched me said otherwise. The way he held me like I was the only thing real in his life. The way he always came back, even when he swore he wouldn't. We tried to stop. More than once. Promised ourselves it had to end. But silence always led to another moment. Another pull. Another lie. We were careful. Until we weren't. And by the time I realized we'd gone too far, I didn't want to go back. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4. Here is Section 4 of the story, continuing the narrative and concluding it with emotional weight, directness, and without repetition or unnecessary detail. I knew it wouldn't last. I told myself it might, but deep down, I felt the expiration date ticking louder with each lie we told. He started pulling away first. Subtle at first, less time alone, fewer texts, more distance in his voice. I thought he was scared. I hoped it was guilt, but it felt like regret. I tried to hold on. Dressed up when I didn't have to. Laughed too loudly at dinner. Sat closer. He noticed, but didn't react the way he used to. His hands stayed in his pockets. His eyes darted more. He became careful again, but not out of respect. It was fear. Mom asked if everything was okay. I said yes, too fast. She narrowed her eyes, but said nothing. Then one morning, she found my phone unlocked on the table. A message from him sat open. Just one line. I can't keep doing this. She didn't say a word. She left. Didn't slam the door.
Didn't cry.
Just left. When he came home and saw her gone, he sat in silence. Didn't ask what happened.
Didn't deny it.
Just stared at the wall like he had finally run out of excuses. I asked him what we were now. He didn't answer. That was the last night he stayed in the house. I woke up and he was gone. No note. No explanation. Just space where he used to be. People always think the worst part is being caught. It's not. It's the silence afterward. The weight of what you've done sitting on your chest while the rest of the world keeps turning. Mom didn't come back for weeks.
When she did, we didn't talk about him.
She looked at me like I was someone else. Maybe I was. I didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't offer it. We existed like strangers, bound only by blood and broken things we couldn't fix. I see him sometimes. Not in person. In habits. In smells. In certain songs. He lives in the empty spaces now, the moments I remember what it felt like to be wanted in secret.
He's not mine.
He never really was. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, if he regrets it, or if I was just the mistake that cost him everything. Maybe I was both. Maybe I don't want to know. What I do know is that once a line is crossed, there's no way to uncross it. No way to go back to who you were before. We weren't lovers. We weren't family. We were something in between, something dangerous, something doomed. He came to me when I was vulnerable. I let him stay because I wanted to feel something. We kept going because neither of us was strong enough to stop. When Dad came to me, then he didn't stop. And neither did I. And now all that's left is the space where everything used to be. Let me know if you'd like a full video script version or narration formatting next.